What if everything you thought was solid, truly wasn't?
Hmm.
What if the very chair you're sitting on right now, the ground beneath your feet, even, your own body, what if they weren't fixed, solid things?
But something, well, dynamic, more alive.
Exactly. Utterly different from what we've always been told.
It's a powerful starting point.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place where we explore fascinating lessons, distill the core knowledge, and basically shortcut your way to being well-informed.
And today, we're embarking on a really transformative deep dive. We're looking at energy and mass from Lesson 3 of Ernest L. Norman's The Infinite Concept of Cosmic Creation.
Right. Our mission here is pretty clear. We want to explore the explanations presented in the lesson. We're focusing on the concepts themselves to help you understand this, well, radically different view of the universe and your place in it.
Yeah, we're going to teach these ideas, sticking strictly to the details as laid out in the lesson. We're inviting you, the listener, to just consider the information as it's presented without necessarily judging it as, out there or anything like that.
And the context for this lesson is pretty unique, isn't it?
It really is. The foreword tells us this isn't just someone writing down their thoughts. It's presented as knowledge conveyed through mental transmission.
Mental transmission. From who?
From some major historical figures, minds like Sir William Crookes, the pioneer in cathode rays and radiant matter,
Wow, okay.
and Michael Faraday, fundamental to our understanding of electromagnetism, fields.
Yeah.
Isaac Newton, of course, monumental figure in classical physics,
Yes.
and even Albert Einstein, reshaped our whole view of space, time, gravity. So the idea is this knowledge comes directly from these influential minds.
That certainly sets a unique stage. It positions the material as, well, profoundly significant, offering a perspective maybe beyond typical scholarship.
Precisely. And with that foundation, the lesson jumps right in. It asserts that our world, right now, is undergoing a great change or metamorphosis.
Not just small changes, but a fundamental transformation.
Exactly. And because of this massive shift, it demands a new way of seeing, a new science or a new philosophy.
And it's not just for kicks, right? It's
Yeah.
for a purpose.
Right. It's explicitly designed, the lesson says, for the betterment of humankind in its future evolution, providing the essential tools and understanding for what's coming.
So if we need this new philosophy, what's wrong with the old ones? The lesson seems pretty critical of our current systems.
It is. It rigorously critiques them. It states that religion, fundamentalism, even science as we usually understand it, they're all, for different reasons, incomplete.
Incomplete, meaning they can't meet the needs of future generations.
That's the assertion. They lack a crucial, unifying element needed to navigate this great change.
And it gets specific about these problems, doesn't it?
Yes, very specific. It observes that Western philosophy has fractured into science and fundamentalism, a deep split.
And this isn't just an academic debate.
No, the lesson claims this factionalism causes sore and grievous illnesses, real suffering, as individuals struggle internally to reconcile these opposing views, that conflict between belief and scientific understanding.
So people are caught in the middle.
And thinking more broadly, the lesson acknowledges that while these current philosophies and sciences do hold elements of truth,
Sure, they're not totally wrong.
right, but they're also torn and filled with such great confusion, multiplicities of error and malpractices, so many inconsistencies and issues have built up.
Creating resistance in people's minds, like a general skepticism.
That's the idea. People feel these systems aren't providing complete answers, so there's this resistance to fully embracing them.
Does it look beyond the West? What about Eastern traditions?
It does. It notes that Eastern nations, despite rich traditions, often suffer abject poverty and are tangled in a welter and confusion of ideologies, philosophies, and occultisms.
Conflicting ideas.
Highly conflicting, yes, and often unacceptable to Western minds, highlighting a kind of incompatibility or lack of resonance across these cultural approaches.
And Christian orthodoxy. Does it get examined too?
It does. Described as filled with much dereliction, much confusion, and torn with many elements of dispensation.
What's the core issue identified there?
The lesson frames it as functioning mainly on an inspiration level, which is fine for some, but makes it not acceptable to people whose minds function on a scientific level. Again, that disconnect.
So even science, with all its amazing advancement.
Right. Even science itself, despite incredible technology and material progress, is deemed insufficient.
Insufficient to provide the framework for this New Age philosophy.
Exactly. It can't fill the gaps, can't provide the whole picture needed for humanity's next evolutionary step. It suggests a limit to its scope when dealing with the totality of existence.
Okay, so if all these major systems are incomplete, what is the big missing piece?
The lesson is very clear on this. The most crucial missing element is the understanding of man himself as a spiritual being.
A spiritual being, not just physical.
Precisely. And this directly includes the concept of metempsychosis, or what we more commonly call reincarnation.
Reincarnation, how does the lesson present that?
As the fundamental evolution of man through the various terrestrial, astral, and spiritual planes, it paints this picture of a much grander, multidimensional, continuous journey for the soul.
Now, some Eastern philosophies already include reincarnation, right?
They do, yes.
Yeah.
But the lesson points out that these understandings are often, for the most part, retrograde,
Retrograde.
meaning they're considered unable to factually relate man to a progressive state of evolution. The implication is that even where it's accepted, the interpretation might not align with this idea of continuous upward spiritual progression, limiting its potential.
Interesting. So what are the implications of understanding reincarnation in the way this lesson presents it?
Profoundly transformative, according to the text. It's positioned as the key to relating man to his numerous different dimensional expressions, grasping our multifaceted nature.
Okay, understanding ourselves across dimensions. What else?
It gets really significant here. The lesson asserts this understanding holds the solution in which will be found the answer to mankind's incurable diseases and the ways and means of curing those evils.
Wow. A link between spiritual understanding and physical healing.
A direct link is suggested. And beyond even that, it provides a realistic answer and approach to man's relationship or his affinity to God. It's presented almost like a complete roadmap, self-understanding, healing, spiritual connection.
So what does this mean for the future of, say, science and religion? Will they just disappear?
Not disappear, but converge. The lesson predicts that in future generations, certain core ideas of both fundamentalism and science will be discarded and replaced by these new elements of understanding.
A kind of reevaluation.
A radical one. Scientists discovering new horizons, new worlds, and new answers, far beyond just materialism, beyond the current 101 plus elements into, well, unimaginable realms.
And fundamentalists.
They will integrate their philosophy into a more compatible structure, aligning spiritual insights with these broader understandings. It paints a picture of a grand unification. Science and spirituality finding common ground.
That's a big vision.
Yeah.
And to really get these concepts, reincarnation, spiritual evolution, what's needed first?
A crucial prerequisite, the lesson stresses. One must first understand the infinite.
The infinite, not just a personal God.
Right. It notes that fundamentalists often relate only to a personal entity, not fully grasping infinity in the fullest and most abstract way. Understanding the infinite as this all-encompassing abstract principle is key to appreciating the vastness of our journey.
Okay, so understanding the infinite is the foundation. How does the lesson define the infinite?
Not as a distant being, but as energy manifesting itself in an infinite number of dimensions and in an infinite number of ways.
Energy. Everywhere. In everything.
A living, dynamic, all-pervasive force. And this leads to one of the most, well, challenging ideas in the lesson.
Which is?
To look at the world about us, we must first subtract from our consciousness the idea of solidity or mass. We must first understand that there is no such thing as a solid.
No such thing as solid at all. That's hard to grasp.
It is. What we perceive as solid, the lesson explains, it only exists in a comparative way, or in a comparative value, one thing measured against another relative to this terrestrial rate of vibration.
So my desk, the floor.
Yeah.
They only seem solid because of how they vibrate relative to me.
That's the concept. It's a relative experience, a perceptual outcome, not an absolute truth. A trick of our limited vibrational sensing, you could say.
If we can actually assimilate that, this constructive philosophy, as it's called, what happens?
We start to see that the infinite is manifesting and remanifesting itself in everything about us, continuously, a dynamic process of creation and recreation everywhere, all the time.
From static objects to constant intelligent motion.
Exactly. And the lesson gives this incredibly vivid image to help. Think about the walls of your home.
Okay, my walls, solid, right?
Not according to this.
Yeah.
Imagine they resolve themselves into tiny planetary systems, revolving particles of energy like the planets around the sun.
Wow. My wall is a microscopic cosmos.
That's the visualization. bustling with energy, tiny particles gyrating, functioning according to an immutable relationship with the infinite. Why? Because this energy is the substance of the infinite.
So the wall isn't a block, it's a teeming, intelligent system made of the infinite's energy.
That's the picture painted. Mind-bending, isn't it?
Definitely.
Okay, so let's talk more about this energy. The lesson divides it somehow.
Broadly, yes,
Yeah.
into two conceptual fields in our world. First, the so-called static or the atomic form.
Static, like potential energy, held in structure.
Yes, this is where we find those tiny structures which the scientist calls atoms, energy bound up.
And the second type, the dynamic or the kinetic form. This is energy moving in the different forms and dimensions which are necessary to our various ways of life.
Yeah.
Energy in action, flowing.
Static and dynamic, a basic framework.
And interestingly, the lesson brings in Einstein again here.
Huh?
It highlights his own late life realization
What was that?
that only during the last few years of Einstein's life that this foremost scientist came to the general conclusion that there was no such thing as mass, and that we could, in a more abstract way, resolve all things into pure energy.
So Einstein himself arrived at this idea that everything is energy, not just as a theory, but a deeper conclusion.
That's how the lesson presents it, a profound abstract realization mirroring its own core teaching.
And the lesson claims that fully grasping this idea, that everything is ultimately energy, is incredibly important.
Hugely important. It provides, and I quote, the key to the solution of life, to all principles of life, its creation, its purpose, as well as the generic principles which are sustained from the immortal mind of the infinite.
The key to everything, life, creation, purpose.
That's the assertion. Not just a physical principle, but the ultimate answer, unlocking the deepest truths.
How does understanding energy's movement play into this?
By understanding the transposition of energy as it manifests itself in numerous dimensions and in different cyclical paths and forms, the lesson explains, we start to get some concept of what the infinite really is.
Seeing the flow helps us grasp the source.
And importantly, thus we shall attain some unity with and see our relationship to it. Recognizing the constant transformation and interdimensional exchange is crucial for seeing the infinite and our connection to it. We're part of this vast energetic flow.
Do you need to be a physicist to get this?
No, not at all. The lesson encourages a different perspective. It prefers viewing physical and causal sciences in a more abstract way, not just from the third dimension.
How then?
It suggests approaching them as a clairvoyant might, where I can see the functioning of the infinite not only through the physical dimensions, but through the higher dimensions as well.
A more intuitive, holistic way of knowing, beyond just instruments and equations.
Exactly. Transcending traditional methods, suggesting a spiritually insightful understanding.
Imagine if this really took hold. How would our perception change day to day?
The lesson makes a promise here. In your future walk of life, you will not see things as before. Objects will gradually change in your mind.
How so? No longer just mundane things.
No longer mere solid or mundane objects, not mere stones or grass or walls, not mere objects of our everyday association. It's described as a fundamental experiential shift.
Instead, they become...
They will resolve themselves into masses of beautiful, radiant, pulsating energy.
Wow. My coffee cup, the tree outside, shimmering, alive with energy.
That's the vision. The ordinary reveals its hidden energetic reality. The mundane becomes radiant.
And does this apply to us too, our bodies?
Absolutely. The lesson encourages us. We shall look into our bodies and see hundreds of millions and trillions of these tiny solar systems, all functioning very intelligently according to a certain relationship, according to that affinity with the immutable infinite mind.
So our body isn't just cells, it's an intelligent microcosmos. Energetic systems aligned with the infinite.
A vast collection, yes, harmoniously aligned.
And mastering this concept, seeing everything as energy, what does it do for us?
It's presented as profoundly transformative. Understanding this represents the first step that will separate us from the old world of karma.
The first step away from karmic cycles.
That's the claim. It marks the start of the journey to climb the various rungs of the ladder of reincarnation into a relationship in which we can direct ourselves into a more constructive way of life.
So it's not just knowledge, it's a practical tool for spiritual progression, actively shaping our future.
Precisely. A pathway to fundamentally alter one's trajectory.
Okay, let's get into the mechanics a bit more. The lesson mentions the sine wave.
Right, the sine wave. Introduced as the basic fundamental waveform with which science is concerned. The transposition of energy in this third-dimensional world.
The universe's fundamental rhythm. the pattern of energy movement.
That's the idea, and there's a good analogy to help visualize it.
Which is,
It's described as roughly a plus and a minus, that oscillation between polarities.
okay, up and down, positive and negative.
Or think about tossing of a stone into a pond of water. You see the ripples spread out, right?
Yeah, outwards from the center.
The energy from your arm, which was static, becomes dynamic, radiating outwards as waves. It shows static energy converting to radiating waves, the ebb and flow.
That makes sense. And this connects back to Einstein.
Yes, specifically his later work on the separation of time.
How does the lesson explain EMC here?
As the formula that allowed science to create either a constructive machine or a destructive atom bomb, or potentially the basis for constructive atomic science, it represents that huge potential to turn mass into immense energy.
Is there an example of that power?
A very striking one. 1 grain of uranium, which is U-238, can be converted into 25 million kilowatts of energy.
One tiny grain, 25 million kilowatts. That's staggering.
It is. And the lesson adds that this atom existed on this planet for at least 2 billion years as energy in a static form, harmless, until it had been transformed into a dynamic form of energy.
Billions of years holding that potential dormant. Wow.
Underscores the immense power locked within what seems inert.
The lesson also had that visualization, the circle with the line, to understand the sine wave in dimensions.
Ah, yes. Draw a circle, line through the middle. The top half represents the fourth dimension, or energy in static form.
Static and outside of time.
Energy concludes itself in these dimensions without time, that's how it's put, suggesting a realm beyond our linear time.
And the bottom half.
That's third dimensional, showing the familiar sine wave, energy as we perceive it in our reality. It's a mental model for how energy might exist differently across dimensions.
Okay, let's shift to atoms. We call them mass, but the lesson says they're tiny forms of energy.
Right, using the hydrogen atom as the example.
Oh.
A positive nucleus and one tiny little moon. An electron orbiting it.
And the key is the balance.
Yes, the balance between the magnetic fluxes, ensuring a constant maintenance or an interchange of energy between nucleus and electron. A dynamic, balanced microsystem.
We know there are many elements, hydrogen up to over 100.
Over 101 plus elements, classified by atomic weight from 1 up to 258. Noting the last few, like mendelevium, are artificially made.
Okay, but then it brings up something science hasn't fully grasped.
Exactly, a peculiarity. Each of these elements has isotopes, anywhere from 1 to 23 of them.
Isotopes, remind me what those are again.
They're exactly the same as its basic element. Same number of protons, same number of electrons, but they have a different weight.
Same identity, different weight. Why is that significant here?
Because the lesson declares this is the key to the whole atomic structure. It argues the atom is not a complete unit of energy.
Not complete.
No. And the isotopes should give the clue to the spiritual nature of the atom.
How so?
Because, it states, each one of the isotopes has a definite relationship with a higher dimension according to a certain fundamental frequency.
So atoms aren't isolated. They're vibrationally linked to higher dimensions through their isotopes. That implies a spiritual connection within matter itself.
That's the profound implication. A deep link woven into the fabric of the physical.
Building on that, the lesson introduces a concept of creation, stemming from the infinite mind, as a vortex.
Yes, an abstract view or a concept of creation, depicted as a vortex. It compares it to the whirlwind, which we see on the desert, saying that's about as close as we can get visually to the abstract idea of space.
So space isn't empty. It's a living, swirling, cosmic whirlwind, the source of creation.
That's the concept. And this vortex isn't chaos. It's composed of countless millions, an infinite number of waveforms, all similar to the sine wave.
Intelligent waves.
Yes, energy itself is intelligent according to the structure of the wave. The very fabric of creation is ordered and conscious.
And these waves have steps.
Malformations.
Various malformations, or what might be called steps, yes. And crucially, these steps all portray a particular thing called objectivism, meaning the objects we see, distinct forms, arise from these patterns in the energy waves.
That's the suggestion. Objectivity emerges from these specific wave formations within the intelligent vortex.
And there are forces within this vortex.
Great forces, yes. Expanding outwards and contracting inward simultaneously, termed centrifugal and centripetal, for lack of better names.
An outward push, an inward pull.
Right. And these forces multiply according to certain fundamental laws of frequency relationship. Very organized. The negative energies resolve down into a central hardcore nucleus.
Hardcore, like solid.
Hard simply as a matter of comparison, the lesson clarifies, because of the maelstrom of energy which forms the apex of that cone with a tremendous conglomeration or concentration of energies, an intensely powerful condensed energy point.
Does this apply to things we know, like our sun?
Directly. This is exactly how our sun is formed, the lesson states. The sun is a colossal vortex, radiating energy, heat, and light into our third dimension.
A manifestation of that creative principle.
And then comes a really fascinating claim, challenging standard science.
What's that?
It claims that once a spaceship penetrates the ionosphere, out there is neither heat nor light.
No heat or light in space itself. So research out there needs totally different concepts.
That's the implication. Our experience of heat and light isn't universal, it's localized.
Why? How do we get heat and light then?
Because the sun's energy is transposed into heat and light and various other actions, according to certain catalytic agents of energy, which are called gravity, or the kinetic energy of the magnetic lines and structures, which hold the universe together.
So heat and light are transformations of solar energy, happening when it interacts with our dimensional framework and catalysts like gravity, not inherent properties of the energy itself.
Exactly, a localized conversion.
And this energy keeps going, creating more vortexes.
Yes, remanifesting itself into countless little vortexes of energy, which then stem and re-radiate energy out. A fractal pattern, creation within creation.
And there's that polarity again between dimensions.
Right. One lower is negative according to the positiveness of the dimension above it, yet the energy here is positive, whereas the other is negative, illustrating the constant interchange of energy from one dimensional form into another, a flow across the vibrational spectrum.
And these countless tiny vortexes eventually become...
They finally resolve themselves into the atomic structures on the Earth, whether hydrogen, uranium, or any other element, including those supporting spiritual atoms, the isotopes.
Because the isotopes connect to higher structures.
Exactly. The isotopes are themselves related in a basic frequency relationship to a higher and higher structure. It connects everything, from the cosmic vortex to the atom, through harmonic frequency, a unified, intelligent universe.
This idea of harmonic structure seems key. The violin analogy.
A great illustration. Strike one A string, a nearby A string vibrates too. Sympathetic resonance.
Right.
And it goes further. If one vibrates at, say, 100 cycles per second, it generates harmonics in the other string, rising potentially to 10 or 15,000 cycles per second.
Showing how vibrations connect and regenerate.
And the lesson applies this universally. The transposition of any energy form which we see in this world is concerned in just such a frequency relationship and under such existing laws from which there are no variations or deviations.
No exceptions. A precise, immutable order to all energy interactions.
That's the foundational idea for understanding energy and motion. Perfect frequency relationships, no randomness.
This also reinforces Einstein's EM idea, mass and energy being interchangeable.
Yes, reiterating that mass is transformed into energy and returned into mass. They are interchangeable. One form transposes into the other via this basic formula, a continuous cycle.
The lesson then brings in Max Planck and quanta. How did that change things?
Before Planck, the belief was energy was like tiny little particles of solid electricity flowing along, a particle view.
Like tiny bullets of energy.
Sort of, but Planck's theory established something different. Energy does not simply flow through something and come out something else at the other end.
It's not just a simple flow.
No, there must be a very definite relationship of harmonic or frequency transposition. Energy moves in discrete packets, quanta, governed by precise harmonic relationships. A deeper, more ordered system.
So, putting this all together, what's the big picture of the universe?
It's this mind-expanding realization. Everywhere in space, everywhere within us, everywhere around us, it's going on all the time, are vast seas of energy in a continual, reciprocating, interchanging, and interlocking of an innumerable and in an infinite number of cycles.
An unseen cosmic dance happening constantly.
Exactly. The entire cosmic universe is filled with this radiating, pulsating energy, depicted as huge vortexes of energy which in turn subdivide themselves in an infinite number of ways and in an infinite number of directions.
And this complex harmonic structure applies to atoms too.
Yes, maintaining the same harmonic frequency relationship in the various atomic structures, not just the known 101 plus, but opening a whole new field, a new vision, an entire new world of science, implying our current view is just the tip of the iceberg.
How can we perceive this now if it's beyond our usual senses?
For the present, the lesson suggests, this understanding will have to be conceived and perceived from the standpoint of clairvoyance.
Clairvoyance, because we lack the instruments.
Right. The world currently is singularly devoid of any instrumentation which can determine such elements of form as exist in these outer or inner dimensions.
Like the TV analogy in the lesson.
Exactly. Your room is pulsating with pictures from at least 15 different television stations, but you can't sense them without the right instrument, your TV or radio, to transpose those vibrations.
So reality is richer than our senses show. We just need the right tuner.
That's the idea. And the lesson predicts future scientists will develop these instruments.
To peer into other dimensions.
Yes, to determine just what is happening in the higher dimensions. And more, through other instrumentation, they will bring in the voices of the higher minds and the intellects, which have heretofore been unseen and unheard.
Communication with higher intellects through technology.
That's the prediction. But it's careful to distinguish this from what is commonly known as spiritualism today, calling that not yet a fully developed science.
Why not?
Because it needs to be abstracted from the realm in which it now exists. Future clairvoyants, it suggests, will need to develop their connection to spiritual dimensions based on this more scientific transposition of knowledge and wisdom.
A scientific spirituality based on observable principles.
That seems to be the direction pointed towards.
So, practically speaking, for us listening right now, what's the takeaway? What should we do with this?
The lesson really emphasizes the need to actively develop a certain cognizance, to consciously try to visualize the transposition of energy all about you.
Why? To change our thinking.
Exactly. To change your way of so thinking from what has been formerly believed to be mass. It's a conscious effort to retrain perception, see beyond apparent solidity.
And if we do that, if we practice seeing energy everywhere,
then the lesson promises the blades of grass, the leaves of the trees, and everything about you assumes a different proportion, a different intensity, a different translation.
things start to speak to us.
Each object will whisper to you its own mysterious and secret message of the infinite creation. The world transforms from static objects into a living, communicative tapestry.
That's a beautiful image. And this understanding connects to our inner self, the psychic self.
Yes, it lays the groundwork for understanding the psychic self, which future lessons apparently delve into. This psychic self is where we incur the indispositions of sin or error.
So like our experiences, choices, patterns, good and bad, reside there.
Whether disease or malformations, or whether they are constructive and useful things of purposeful intent. It's the fabric of our inner being, the seed of our karma, you could say.
And the psychic self isn't static either.
No, like your physical body, your psychic body is constantly being either constructed or torn down.
And our evolution depends on this.
Critically, your future evolution depends upon how you construct and reconstruct this psychic self.
Where does the soul fit in?
This psychic self is linked to your pure superconsciousness, which is sometimes called your soul. This is your true self. The core of our being, linked to our higher essence, evolving through our actions.
So through reincarnation, through struggle, we learn about the infinite.
We acquaint yourself with the infinite nature of infinity and thus see all of the things which are godlike in that concept. That's the journey described.
And the ultimate goal.
To again come into a harmonic conclusion with that soul self. And in that harmony, that fulfillment of reincarnation's purpose, you will have attained the affinity with the infinite. Unity, resonance with all that is.
The lesson seems quite insistent that humanity needs to accept these ideas.
Very much so. It calls this advanced scientific relationship more than third-dimensional, extending into the spiritual, tremendously advanced.
And it predicts science and orthodoxy will eventually accept them.
Yes, they not only will have to, but will arrive at the place where they will develop that desire within themselves. It's framed as inevitable.
Why is it so necessary?
Because, the lesson argues, both fundamentalism and science have passed the point of diminishing returns. They aren't solving the deep problems.
And understanding these energy concepts can solve them.
That's the claim. It's presented as essential to free the hundreds of thousands of people in conditions of extreme stress and circumstance, in prisons, asylums, hospitals, those dying needlessly.
And even larger conflicts.
Yes, key to alleviate the wars, the strife, and the vicissitudes of human nature. It's positioned as the ultimate solution to suffering and conflict.
Because it answers the fundamental questions: who we are, why we're here.
Exactly. Who we are and what we are and what we are here for, where we came from and where we are going, providing that complete framework.
And this knowledge comes from Shambhala, Unarius.
That's the stated origin. The purpose of this science, which is being brought to you from higher minds of Shambhala, now named UN.AR.I.U.S, asserting a specific higher dimensional source.
And there's a promise of proof.
A strong one.
Wow.
We shall prove and demonstrate to you that these concepts are factual. They can change your lives and give you the answers to all your problems.
Even offering personal insights, looking into past lives.
The speaker in the lesson claims that ability. I shall give you the facts and principles of how you may get the answers for yourselves, even peering back to find pertinent or pivot points, your greatest negations and different crises from past evolutions.
So the goal is active participation, not just belief.
Yes, to be related in a new way, as an active participant and participator in infinite mind. And, crucially,
and you see how you do it. You will see it working. A promise of direct experiential mastery.
it leaves you with a lot to think about. So here's the thought to take away. If everything around you, including yourself, really is this radiant, pulsating mass of intelligent energy operating under these immutable harmonic laws,
What does that really change about how you perceive your challenges, your health, your potential? What new understanding might just whisper to you from the seemingly mundane objects in your life this week?
maybe just try observing the world through that lens. See what shifts for you.